much for you is just this year been, this off season been, comfort wise, just because the familiarity you have with not just the coaching staff, but the surroundings in general where you're, living and everything?
It's a great question. Year one was a sprint from the day that I moved here till the end of the last game. I mean, it was just a sprint, and that's tough. A sprint from learning the playbook, a sprint from learning the players, a sprint from, from learning what Kevin and AB want here and the Haslam's and just operating in this environment. So year two has been an absolute blessing. Just an opportunity to actually not sprint the whole time. Times you do have to sprint. This is a part of the time you sprint. Obviously you'll slow down a little bit here, but definitely a lot more comfort in the sense that I know what Jim expects now. I know what he wants. I feel a lot more comfortable personally in terms of getting the message across to our guys, especially our room, making sure that I communicate it the way they need it, and then also making sure that it matches up with what we're teaching on the field to make sure that they have the best, OTAs or coming out of the OTAs or this part of the year, that they can be the best that they can be at this point. So it's been phenomenal to be in year two, for sure.
Ephraim, you guys got pretty beat up last year in that room. So this week to be able to have Rod and Grant and Juan back out there again, how big was that? Even if it's just, a handful of days.
No, it's funny. As we were going through OTAs and obviously guys were having some amazing life blessings for themselves, and Grant coming back, off the surgery, it was really nice. I told the guys, I told the young guys, I said, hey, fellas, we're just picking up where we left off, with D-Bell and Rocket and those guys. And I will say this, to that point, I felt like those two guys really had a great, 9 weeks. They got better. They improved. I got to spend a lot of time with those guys, which was nice. It was definitely nice to see the old guys come back. Obviously, had two awesome blessings for them, and to have Grant back healthy. Nice to have them back in the room. All of them did a great job. Working, coming in shape, Juan putting on 6 extra pounds of muscle. Grant looked phenomenal. Rod's the OG, he's going to come back ready and everything. So it was nice to have those guys back. I thought it was kind of unique to end the season the way we did and then go into these OTAs, and I felt like those guys got better from it. So they've had a long stretch of improvement in terms of those young guys.
What do you think motivated Juan to put on that extra muscle?
I think Juan is a highly competitive human being. He's very self-aware, and I think for him, he wanted to come in and attack, this season. To your question earlier, year one for him, year one was year one for him too. And he had a lot of moving parts last year, and he felt like he got a chance to kind of be settled and to make year two more of a routine for himself. So he was ready to do that. I thought he did a phenomenal job attacking, getting himself ready, getting his body ready so that he can have the best season possible.
Going off that, the year two as a whole for that group, how helpful is that for them as you guys went through minicamp, but also prepping for this season, a year in the system, getting comfortable?
I mean, it's like Jim said, we're not on chapter one anymore. We're able to move past chapter one, maybe kind of like Cliff Notes chapter one, but, start is still start. It'll always be for us. But for us to kind of be able to move into chapter 10, 11, and 12 and move forward and really understand why Jim's calling something, not just execute it, So for us, year twos are great in that sense, as a coach, but also as a player, being able to really take that, know what to do, but now we can apply the how, the why, and everything else that makes the player better, makes the scheme better, makes the system better.
Speaking of the competitiveness of Juan, last year I asked you about the chirpiness that he had walking off the field, and he's doing it again this year.
Yeah.
Getting those guys riled up. What does that mean to this team at this time, and what can you say about Juan and what he brings?
It's like you asked a question last year. It's a great question. But bottom line is you need energizer guys like that. You need energy people, and he brings it. He's got a sense of pride to himself. He's competitive. He has an edge, and he brings that to our group. And he walks that way. He thinks that way, and those people, they affect everybody around them in their circle. So it's nice to to feel that again, to hear Juan's voice. It's a unique voice I've heard for many years, or on the other sideline often, but now being on the sideline with them, it's infectious and it catches fire and everyone feeds off of it. So
have you seen guys kind of pick up that same energy that he's bringing?
Yeah, I do. I have. I've seen guys really, really kind of come out of their shells a little bit, Jim promotes that. He really pushes that in his scheme and his system. You know, the swagger we play with, we want to lead the league in that category. You know, really playing with passion and making sure fans and people see that, but also their teammates. You know, and we no celebration loafs is what we call it. So you know, Jim really pushes that, and I think the guys take to that. Even if that's not who they are, they become that, and that's part of building this culture.
Going back to my first question about just the comfort this offseason and everything. College football, you know, as more and more, you know, goes into college football coaching, how much have you sort of stepped back and been able to exhale more as you watch, you know, friends and colleagues at that level?
Well, don't give me PTSD right now. Like, don't like, I don't want to like start geeking out here. But it's been a blessing too, to be here. I'm very thankful for Kevin AB, the Haslam's, personally. You know, to sit back and see what's going on, it's tough. Those coaches, my colleagues, they're fighting, you know, and I get it. You know, there's reasons why, and there's pluses and minuses in it. I definitely say I'm very blessed and thankful to be here and to be a part of this organization, to see what's going on, but also to kind of like learn, because what's happening here is eventually going to spill over to that world. And I think a lot of coaches have come in here. Kevin's been awesome about, you know, college coaches coming in. And there's a lot of questions about, hey, you guys are operating in this manner. We're going to have to operate like that there. So I think it's been good to see the professional development and our organization opening up to that.
Just to go back to Rod, since he announced it's going to be his last year. I know your room doesn't need any extra juice, but does that add like a different dynamic with guys wanting to send him out with a bang, him wanting to go out with a bang, anything like that?
You know, it's one of our goals. You know, I have individual goals for each one of those players. We have a goal for the room. We have a goal for the defense. But for Rod, we want to make sure that Rod, you know, our ultimate goal is to you know, send Rod out a winner. You know, his last game, we want it to be a win, bottom line. And if that happens, you know, that's what we're shooting for. So definitely excited for him to be last year. I was excited when I got the call that he was coming back. I was definitely I slept better again. You know, I always tell you I sleep really good when I know Rod's going to walk through the doors.
I know this happened at the end of last year, but Grant signing the extension as well, him being here.
Yeah.
What does he mean to this defense, and specifically this room, and to you as you got to know him?
You know, again, I've known Grant since his days at Lamar High School, and then transferring and recruiting him. It was a special moment, you know, for him to sign that contract. I think the organization invested in a person who's invested into this place. And you see that in his work ethic, you see that in his presence and his and everything that he pours into Cleveland. So you want a guy like that. You want to put the money on a guy like that. So for me to see him get that contract, we talked a lot about it. That was the first conversation. I picked up the phone and still had his number in there as a recruit, but it still had the same number. But it was a goal for us to make sure he gets there. For the room, Grant is Grant. Grant is toughness. Grant is presence. It's a voice when we need it, and he goes out there every day and he proves it. So I think Cleveland, the fans, the fan base, the Haslam's, AB, you know, they did the right thing, and I think it's going to benefit this place for a long time.
We talked to a few defenders, your room, other rooms, about kind of how that playoff loss sat with them. How are you seeing guys kind of respond, and is there any motivation that comes from that? Are you seeing guys kind of coming back wanting to put that behind them?
Well, it's like my 6-year-old daughter. You know, she watches these things. I love you, Amani, when you watch it. But it's like a child, right? You know, they don't learn until they touch something or get hurt. And that's, you know, when they're that age, and it's the same. You know, you get touched, you touch the fire, you get burnt, and you never forget it. It motivates you. It reminds you every day why we're doing this and what we're trying to do. That group out there, they have that mentality. They know exactly what what we have to do to make sure that, you know, that we're better in that situation next time. I know it's motivated me. I know it motivates this coaching staff. It's motivated this entire building. But you have to do those things. It's like my daughter. You have to touch. You have to touch it, and you got to learn. We all do, and unfortunately, you know, it hurt. But at the same time, you're going to grow a lot from those experiences. One more. We're good. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
I want to ask you about Denzel. He talked a lot about how important it was for him to be here as a leader, that he's taken that on and he wants young guys to kind of follow him. How has he grown since you've kind of gotten with him in that role, just being a leader of that room?
Sure. You know, in our culture, we hold our best players the most accountable, and he's obviously one of our best players. But when you look at like everything that he means to not just our offense, our special teams, but our defense, like when your best player is the hardest worker in the room, he comes in early, he stays late, he's studious, he embodies everything about our team mantra of start, and he's certainly everything about our defense. He's a tough guy, he gives great effort, and he plays with passion. So to see the consistency behind that has really been great.
He was mentioning that Martin was kind of on his hip. He followed him to Florida. He was working out with Florida with him. I mean, do you see guys kind of gravitate to him? And did you see Martin? Have you seen Martin kind of gravitate to him specifically?
Absolutely. I think that, just the culture that Coach Stefanski has built here, we talk about the team being the very most important. You see guys reaching down and bringing others with them, and that's something that you see with their relationship.
How excited does that make you as a position coach that two of your guys were like adamant about even like living together, basically, it sounds like, to train in the down period?
Sure. Ashley, it's a family, and it really is, and that's something that you really can't fake. These guys come in, they really put the team first, but then, as a position coach, really just a facilitator. These guys really do a really good job embodying exactly who we are and what the expectations are.
What did you see from Martin at camp? I mean, he was explosive out there. It seemed like he was in on every play that the ball was thrown. What did you think about him?
Sure. Consistency. I know that, we talk a lot about versatility, but really consistency and being available. He's an extremely tough young guy who's accountable, he's resilient to the details, and he shows it on display.
There's probably, when you say versatility, there's probably not a guy that embodies that more than Greg. So what is having kind of that chess piece, I guess, if you want to call it that, play inside, outside, wherever you want, what does having that do to your room?
As far as with who? Ask that question again.
Greg?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's tremendous. Whenever you can play man, but then you have versatility of skills to be a very smart, aware zone player. And then when you have like the physical tools to match up with small receivers, big receivers, that really helps what our system does.
Tony Brown told me that you were the best coach that he's ever had, and that you've really helped him fall back in love with the game. To have that relationship with a player so early on into this process, what does that mean, and where do you see him kind of going under your guidance?
Absolutely. Honestly, that's extremely humbling. But I honestly think that speaks to all of us. I think that speaks to all of our defensive coaches. It speaks to everybody in personnel. It speaks to our wait staff and everybody in between. And when I think about his role, like he's another start player for us, but with him coming in, immediately buying into like who we are, the things that we find important, that's really going to help our defense.
Coach, the thought that Denzel, Martin, and Greg make up the best corner trio in the league, what do you say to that?
I think that every single day we have to work at our habits. We have to make sure that we're keeping the focus on the work. But most importantly, we have to be consistent, we have to be available, and we have to keeping the main thing. And the main thing is the team. So as long as we're keeping the focus on that, we'll keep improving.
But if they have that belief, you're all right with it?
Oh, 1,000%. And I'm glad that they do.
What was up with Denzel?
Sir?
What was up with Denzel today?
You know what? Great opportunity to give some of our younger guys some more reps, guys to go ahead and get out there so we can get some more film on display for them.
So he wasn't hurt?
Sir?
Was he hurt?
Denzel's great.
What's it been like?
Harden and your early impressions of him. What are you seeing in those?
You know what? He's one of us. That's the very first thing that I see. We have a certain style of player that we like to bring in. A guy that has very hard edge. Somebody that's going to give great effort. Somebody that plays with swag and passion. He embodies all that. And then honestly, he's an extremely smart player. He's a guy that as soon as he got in the room, the guys immediately gravitated to him because of his work ethic. And again, he's a smart guy, he puts the team first. So really seeing him like really growing in his role as an outside guy, and I know he's going to do really good things with special teams.
I know it's just obviously year 2 in the defense, but just a couple days of minicamp. But what are you excited about for your group heading into year 2 in Jim's defense, and just what you guys can grow next year?
Yes. The thing that I'm most excited about is for these guys to further their knowledge and, the disciplines of our system, and also just to grow each other's relationships. That's the thing that I'm very most excited about. The things that we can improve on is just us being consistent. We talk a lot about formations, motions, splits, single width, and bigs outside. So us being able to process information fast, communicate that first, and then execute.
Brandon, what's it been like adding Justin Hardy into this room, and what does he bring? Because I think everybody thinks of him as that gunner kind of mentality.
Sure. Start player for us, you know. And again, like he is that guy that they all gravitate toward, like period, you know. And I think that AB and Stefanski, they've done a really good job getting the right people in the seats, you know. And again, with Larry, with everybody in the training room, they've done a really good job keeping the guys in the seats. So really excited about his contribution.
All right, I got a random one for you.
Yes.
Bubba told us that he had talked to some of the DB coaches about working with kickers on tackling. Has that happened? Have you guys worked with them at all? Or has he broached that topic?
Absolutely. Fundamentals and techniques, right? It's across the board, you know. And something that I've always thought, like teachers want to teach, right? So any teacher that gets an opportunity to teach another student, like we're all up for it.
So how are they doing?
Oh, good. Share situational awareness, man.
Gonna put Dustin out there at nickel or something?
Hey, get it done.
Hey, what also with the new D-line coach? I know you're in defensive meetings with him, and you've probably been around him a lot. What does Jacques kind of bring to this defensive staff?
Sure, energy. You know, he brings energy. He brings a wealth of knowledge. You know, it's a people business, so you can immediately tell that like he has like a pulse on his guys. As far as like we talk about creating a culture in his room, and his culture being the engine, you know, it's extremely high up there to hold guys accountable, and we keep our best players the most accountable in the system.
Do you use the playoff loss in Houston throughout the offseason? Is it a motivational tool for you, or do you leave it in the rearview mirror? How do you handle it as a coach?
Sure. You know, I think that anytime you get an opportunity to like go in and get another rep, anytime that you get a chance to like, you know, put your technique and fundamentals on display, it's helpful. So that experience is really going to help us moving forward as we reach our next task. And our very next task is really doing a really good job getting our energy up, and then once we get to training camp, solely focusing on our technique and our fundamentals out there. So that's really the gas for that.
That's it.
So,
Bingo.
all right.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Have a good summer.
Thank you, man. Yes.
What's Jordan added to the room?
Jordan has seen almost everything in his years of experience, and he's the same every day. He's positive, he's direct, he makes things simple, and he's great to have in there because if it's like almost finishing my sentences already, which is rare for people that haven't worked together. So he's just impressive in how he carries himself, a pro's pro, and that's been a great addition to the room.
What do you think an encore from JOK is going to look like this year?
Well, we're still going to approach everything we're approaching one day at a time. Same process, which is get in great shape and go one day, one play at a time. Like today, he had a really good day of just going one play at a time. He had 2 really good breaks where he's anticipating the ball out and going. So we're just going to approach it exactly the same way because every year's different. Every year's different. Nothing that we've done before matters. All that matters is getting ready each day. Like today, we treat it as the first day of training camp because we got to be in better shape when we come back.
Over the years, talked about he's put on muscle, even though he's an alkaline vegan, and he's really made sure to try to get the game to slow down and be able to focus on things out there. How have you seen him develop and really tackle this role of being in the NFL and trying to get better each year?
Well, one thing that he's done is with his food consumption and things, he's got to make sure he's on schedule. He's gotten better at being on schedule. And so we kind of know where he is, and he just keeps going. So that's that part of it. The other part of it is what we just said. It's being able to go one play at a time and think about that my next play is my best play. My next play is my best play no matter what happened. Going quicker reactions from good or bad to the next play. And he's just gotten better and better at that. He continued to do that this spring. So he keeps going on this trajectory. We'll be happy.
When Anthony Walker left, you said that if he wasn't the best linebacker in the league, that it was his own fault. Do you see that type of potential for him, and where do you stack him up amongst some of the better linebackers?
Yeah, with his unique ability to see things and quick, like he picks up, you've heard from me before, he picks up everything. It's what clues do you want to use on certain type of schemes, because he feels it all. So a lot of times I just say, what do you feel? What'd you feel? Okay, do this. And the more he does that, and goes one play at a time, I mean, I'm not going to predict. I mean, I'm not in the prediction business, but what I know is when that young man stays in that focal point and gets his body ready, he can really help us make plays.
Jason, and along those lines, this is like the most turnover it seems like you guys have had personnel-wise in your room, just with Sione gone and Awak gone in the last handful of years. Like, how has Jeremiah maybe stepped into that leadership kind of old guard role, even though he's younger now? Like, he's one of the most seasoned vets in this system.
I do think, I mean, I love Anthony and Sione. They're two of my favorite people in the world. They really are. I'm really proud of them. So you guys better be playing good too. But Tony Fields, Jeremiah, they've been here the same time together. Tony's really grown up as well. So it's been fun to watch Tony and Jeremiah because they'll compete to be first at things. But what we also have in the room is we have Mahmoud and Charlie that have been around for a year. So there's a lot, and the scheme is still here. So there's actually a lot of carryover. They competed all spring to see who could be first to answer all my questions. And you can probably tell I ask questions pretty quickly, right? So, I mean, Charlie's first, then Mahmoud's first, then Jeremiah's first, then Tony's first, then Jordan's first. I mean, and that's how you want it. So our group, because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, 2 years ago we had almost every linebacker, I don't even know how many, go on IR. You never know. So we train everybody, and we want everybody interacting and answering questions. So Jeremiah and the guys are right in that. They're a lot of fun to be around. There's energy in there all the time.
So I wanted to ask you about Tony. What kind of opportunity does he have?
Oh, he's got a great opportunity. By the end of the year, Tony was our third linebacker, and Tony got more and more consistent. Tony's really good at shedding blocks and running to things. He did that really well throughout his college career and when he got an opportunity in past years. Last year, he was able to get more specific in the pass game. And by the end of the year, he's some really good plays in the pass game. And he was our starting base linebacker at the end of that year. So now it's for Tone to own that role and get more and and keep going. He had a really good spring. So we're excited about where he's going. But he's on the right track. He's gotten stronger and quicker, and he does more flexibility things. Let's see what he can do.
How has Watson been since he got here? Knowing he was such a good tackler, obviously, in a tough conference, what does he maybe bring to the table, even though he's a rookie, being 24, basically?
Yeah, he's very experienced. And what Nathaniel does a really good job of is not making the same mistake. And if you're a rookie and you can learn from your mistakes and not make the same mistake twice, he got better and better. Like he had a play today that was the same as one yesterday, and he corrected it. So if he keeps going on that, that's what rookies need to do, is don't be the guy that's making mistakes over and over. Be the guy that's fixing things. The other thing with Nathaniel is he's played a lot of football. Like you said, he's experienced, so he sees things pretty well for a rookie, but like you said, a slightly older rookie in the NFL. So we like where he's going. I'm excited to see him in pads.
Yeah, he looks huge.
Yeah, I want to see him in pads.
Going off of that, how have you seen him though, like kind of pick the brain of the guys that have been here, like JOK, Tony, etc., kind of with the other guys in the room as he's tried to learn the system? He's
very direct, and you said, Nate, you got that? And he says, yes. And sometimes that's all he says. You know, everybody else is like, yeah, I got you, coach, and they're happy. He just goes, yes, coach. But he's got it when he tells you yes, coach. So if he keeps that up, we'll be good. But he listens very well. He's quiet in the meeting, but he is picking up on everything. He's very quick. So he stays in that. Right. Keep doing it, Nate.
You touched on this a little bit when you were talking about having guys in that room for a few years. The NFL's not a very patient league.
Right.
But, you know, a guy like Tony's an example of this, right? Kind of came in, I think it was like a 5th-round pick. It's taken some time for him to get to this point. How valuable has it been that this organization tends to be patient with guys and tends to let guys grow and develop? Like a guy like a Tony or even a Mahmoud or whoever.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're the whole evaluation process and everybody involved, we spend the time to pick them. And then that's awesome as a coach. Well, they're patient with me too, so that's good. But that relationship sometimes can be hard, and you got to build it really fast in the NFL. But the more you're around guys, because it still is a developmental league, we just, in our room, it's just about how good you're going to get and production, and it doesn't matter when you go in, you're expected to play, and everybody's treated. There is no depth chart in the linebacker room. We just go. And the guys that jump into that and just develop themselves get to build themselves into players, and that's what we're here for. That's my favorite part of a coach, is helping people do things together that they couldn't do on their own. That's why I do it.
I mean, it's not like that everywhere in this league. It
can be. It can move fast. I would say from being a few of these teams, all 32 teams are different and how they approach everything. So really, it's almost like not a comparison. It's just they're just 32 units that are all in their however they decide to develop. That's where they are. So that's how I would answer that one.
Sorry,
Go
I
ahead.
didn't mean to cut you
You're
off.
good.
Bigger picture, though, I guess when you look at, you guys are going in the second year of Jim Schwartz's defense, just kind of another year in the system. How helpful is that, especially in minicamp and as you guys are prepping for the season, that you know the system, it's kind of been implemented, and now you guys are tweaking things and that kind of thing?
Yeah, like what Jim said, we're able to tweak things, but to what we've been talking about, the backers, like Jeremiah and Tony and Mahmoud and Charlie and all the guys that are coming back in, they know those words already. So there's not the transfer of language, if that makes sense. We're not transferring an old word for a certain technique to a new one. We already know that, so we can move quicker. So just like when I was explaining the questions, when they're competing for the questions, they already know the words. So that's what happens in your first off season, and I'm proud of the guys for how well they've done, especially on the stuff we did last year. Because I mean, that's why you have coaches, that's why you practice, is to get the new stuff and get it done. But it's definitely helped. Biggest thing is language and what they're expected to do.
Is Jeremiah, I was trying to eyeball him and I couldn't figure out, is he a little bigger this year, or is he about the same size as last year?
He's doing well right now. He's right on his progression. He knows where he wants to be for camp, and he's right on course to get that.
Good.
Thanks.